Frank Turner rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the computer screen. 3 days with barely any sleep, yet he couldn't pull himself away. The signal patterns continued to dance across his monitor, beautiful in their complexity, impossible in their precision. "You need to rest," Grace Lawson said, placing a steaming cup of coffee beside him. The NASA xenolinguist had been working alongside him since the first transmission arrived. "How can I sleep when this is happening?" Frank gestured at the screen. "These aren't random cosmic emissions, Grace. They're structured. They're intentional." Grace nodded, pulling up a chair. "The pattern repetition is undeniable. Someone is reaching out." The signals had first appeared 96 hours ago, detected simultaneously by radio telescopes in 12 different countries. The scientific community had erupted in controlled chaos, scrambling to analyze what many already suspected: humanity's first confirmed contact with an extraterrestrial intelligence. At NASA's Communications Center, Frank and Grace led the international response team. Frank specialized in deep space signal processing, while Grace had pioneered new approaches to potential alien language structures. "The mathematics are universal," Grace said, pointing to a recurring sequence. "But there's something else embedded in the pattern. Almost like instructions," Frank finished her thought. "They're telling us how to respond." The team worked tirelessly for another 2 days, decoding what appeared to be specifications for constructing a more sophisticated communication device. Engineers around the world collaborated to build the apparatus according to the alien blueprints. When they activated the device, everything changed. A 3-dimensional hologram materialized in the center of the room, showing a being unlike anything they had imagined. It had 6 limbs, iridescent skin, and 3 sets of eyes arranged vertically on what appeared to be its face. "People of Earth," the translator program rendered its speech. "I am Zixvar, High Counselor of the Galactic Council. We have been observing your civilization for some time." The room fell silent as scientists and military personnel stared in shock. "Your species has reached a development stage where we traditionally extend an invitation to join our collective," the alien continued. "However, membership is not granted automatically. You must prove yourselves worthy." Frank stepped forward. "What does that entail, exactly?" "A series of assessments: technological capability, cultural stability, ethical standards. Many species fail." Something in the alien's tone suggested this was an understatement. "And if we decline?" Grace asked. "That would be unwise. Unaffiliated species are considered unpredictable. For the safety of all, they must be contained." The implied threat hung in the air. Nobody missed it. "We'll participate in your assessments," Frank said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "Excellent. Prepare your world leadership. A delegation will arrive in 30 of your days to begin the process." After the transmission ended, the room erupted in voices. Military officials immediately began security discussions. Scientists debated the technological implications. Politicians who had been watching remotely were already scheduling emergency sessions. "They're not giving us a choice," Grace said quietly to Frank. "No, they're not." Frank's expression was thoughtful. "But did you notice something? The way they spoke about these tests. Like they don't expect us to pass." Grace nodded. "Almost like they're designed to make species fail." Frank looked at the notes they'd taken. "The Council underestimates us. They don't know humans very well." "What do you mean?" "Nothing motivates humans more than being told we can't do something." A small smile crossed his face. "If they want to test us, fine. But I think they might be surprised by what they find." Grace considered this, then slowly smiled too. "You know what? I think you're right." As dawn broke outside, humanity began preparing for its greatest challenge yet, unaware that their response would shake the foundations of galactic society forever. The Council's delegation arrived exactly 30 days later, their ship descending through Earth's atmosphere with deliberate slowness. It hovered above the United Nations headquarters in New York, causing traffic to stop and millions to watch in awe. High Counselor Zixbar led a group of 7 aliens, each representing different council species. They moved with an air of superiority that was impossible to miss as they entered the specially prepared meeting hall. "We will now begin the assessment of humanity," Zixbar announced to the assembled world leaders and scientists. "Our standards are exacting. Few species meet them." Lisa Martinez sat in the back row, taking careful notes. As the lead engineer from the International Space Agency, she had been invited to observe but not speak. The restriction bothered her, but she followed the rules. "First, we must examine your technology," said another alien with blue-tinted skin. "Our scans show you have developed nuclear fission, basic space travel, and early artificial intelligence. Primitive, but acceptable for consideration." Frank Turner, sitting beside Lisa, frowned at the dismissive tone. "However," continued Zixbar, "for membership consideration, you must demonstrate that you can adapt to our technological standards. Your current propulsion systems are inefficient and damaging to space-time fabric." The Council displayed holographic specifications for their approved technologies. Lisa studied them intently, immediately spotting the problem. "These requirements would set us back decades," she whispered to Frank. "Their approved propulsion system is less efficient than what we already use." The Council continued listing restrictions, limitations on AI development, constraints on quantum computing, and boundaries for weapons technology. Each restriction seemed designed to hobble human progress rather than enhance it. During a recess, Lisa approached Grace. "These aren't tests, they're chains. They want compliant members, not equals." Grace nodded. "I've been analyzing their language patterns. They speak to us like adults to children. They've never seen us as potential equals." Lisa glanced at her tablet, where she'd been analyzing the Council's specifications. "But there's something else. I found inconsistencies in their technological requirements. Almost like." "Like what?" Frank asked, joining them. "Like loopholes," Lisa said quietly. "Their rules are specific about what we can't do, but they leave gaps, probably because they can't imagine alternatives to their approach." When the session resumed, Lisa passed notes to the human delegation. President Rivera nodded subtly after reading them. "High Counselor," the President addressed Zixbar, "we accept your assessment parameters and will demonstrate our compliance." The aliens seemed pleased, perhaps even surprised by humanity's quick acceptance. "Excellent," Zixbar said. "We will establish monitoring stations to ensure your development follows approved paths. In 1 Earth year, we will evaluate your progress." After the Council members departed for their temporary embassy, the human team gathered privately. "They expect us to either rebel openly or follow their restrictive path," Lisa explained to the group. "But they've missed something fundamental about humans. We adapt," Frank added. "We find ways forward that others can't imagine." Lisa displayed her findings on the main screen. Their restrictions focus on specific technologies, but say nothing about whole categories of alternative approaches. They've banned our current propulsion methods, but haven't restricted several theoretical systems we've been developing. "Can we build these alternatives within a year?" President Rivera asked. Lisa smiled. "With global cooperation and resources." "Absolutely." That night, as the world's news reported humanity's apparent submission to the Council's terms, a different message spread through secure channels to research facilities worldwide. Earth would appear to comply while actually leaping forward. "The Council thinks they're limiting us," Lisa told her team as they began working. "They don't realize they've just given us the blueprint for their weaknesses." 6 months after the Council's arrival, Earth sent its first diplomatic team to Nexus, the massive space station serving as the Galactic Council's headquarters. Ambassador William Carter led the small human delegation through the sprawling alien complex, trying not to appear overwhelmed by the dizzying variety of species and technology surrounding them. "Remember," he told his team quietly, "we're here to learn, not just to be evaluated. Keep your eyes open." The human delegation had been assigned quarters in a distant section of the station, far from the council chambers and the more established species. The message was clear. Humans were at the bottom of the galactic hierarchy. "Ambassador Carter," a voice called out. William turned to see a tall, spindly alien with pale green skin approaching. "I am Velox, assistant to Sub-Counselor Mreath. I will be your liaison during your stay." "Thank you, Velox. We appreciate the guidance," William replied, noting how the alien seemed to look past him rather than at him. Over the next few days, the humans attended orientation sessions that felt more like school lectures than diplomatic exchanges. The council representatives spoke slowly and used simple terms, as if addressing children. During a rare break, William decided to explore the station. He wandered into an area that appeared to be a social gathering place for various species. As he entered, conversations paused briefly before resuming at lower volumes. "First time on Nexus?" asked a gravelly voice. William turned to see a stocky, reptilian being with amber eyes watching him from a corner table. "That obvious?" William asked with a small smile. "All newcomers have the same look. I'm Drac, representative of the Vothuri." The alien gestured to an empty seat. William joined him, grateful for any friendly interaction. "William Carter, representing Earth." "Ah, the new assessment species. My sympathies." Drac's mouth formed what might have been a smile. "Sympathies." Drac leaned closer. 97% rejection rate. "Did they mention that in your orientation?" William felt a chill. "No, they didn't." "Of course not." Drac swirled his drink. "The Votheri have been under assessment for 22 cycles now. We meet every requirement, then they change the requirements." Over the next hour, William learned more truth about the council than in all the official briefings. He met representatives from other marginalized species, the crystalline Lumari, the gaseous Nebula, and the hive-minded Kex. Each shared similar stories of continual assessment without progress. "It's not about qualification," explained Talia, a Lumari whose faceted body sparkled under the lights. "It's about control. The founding species maintain their dominance by keeping the rest of us competing for approval." William returned to the human quarters with new understanding. He immediately called a secure meeting with his team. "The tests aren't meant to be passed," he explained. "The council founding members use the assessment process to maintain their power structure while appearing inclusive." "So what's our play?" asked his security chief, Kyle Bennett. William considered for a moment. "We continue appearing compliant, but we need to build alliances with these other assessment species. They've been dealing with this system for decades. They know the weaknesses." The next day, William approached Counselor Zixpar with questions about human progress that were designed to sound eager and naive. Meanwhile, his team began quiet meetings with representatives from the marginalized species. "The Council fears cooperation between assessment species," Drac explained during one such gathering. "They keep us separated, competing for limited membership slots." "What if we stopped competing?" William suggested. "What if we created a different approach entirely?" "Impossible," whispered Talia. "The Council controls all interstellar resources and transit routes." William smiled slightly. "Perhaps not for much longer. Earth has been developing some alternative approaches." For the first time, William saw genuine interest in the eyes of the other species. Not just hope, but the beginning of something more dangerous to the Council: collaboration. "Tell us more," Drac said, as the others leaned in closer. As Ambassador Carter built alliances on Nexus, back on Earth, Lisa Martinez was working around the clock. Her laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains had become humanity's technological nerve center. Teams of scientists and engineers worked in shifts, developing technologies that exploited the loopholes in Council restrictions. They banned traditional fusion drives, Lisa explained to her team, pointing to schematics on a holographic display. But they never mentioned gravitational propulsion. Their rules are based on what they already know. Through secure quantum channels hidden from Council monitoring, Lisa coordinated with William. Each piece of intelligence he gathered about Council technology helped refine their work. The Council species communicate through standard subspace channels, Lisa told Captain Daniel Wright during a briefing. They believe faster communication is impossible. Daniel nodded thoughtfully. He had been selected to command humanity's first truly advanced spacecraft, built in secret inside an asteroid base, and our quantum entanglement system. Undetectable to their sensors, Lisa confirmed. They literally have no concept of it, so they don't scan for it. The ship, unofficially named Defiance, represented everything humanity could achieve when freed from artificial constraints. Behind false walls, and underneath Council-approved technology, sat systems decades beyond what Earth should have been capable of developing. Meanwhile, scientist Olivia Johnson had made perhaps the most significant breakthrough. After studying the Council's approved propulsion limitations, she had discovered an entirely different approach to space travel. It's not about pushing against space, she explained to Lisa and Daniel. It's about moving with space. The fabric of reality wants to flow certain ways naturally. Her demonstration showed how the new drive system created virtually no detectable emissions. A ship using this technology would appear to be drifting to conventional sensors, while actually moving at speeds the Council would deem impossible. This changes everything, Daniel said quietly, watching the demonstration. With this, we could reach any system in the galaxy without being tracked. As preparations continued on Earth, William's coalition of marginalized species grew stronger on Nexus. The humans shared carefully selected technological insights with their new allies, enough to prove Earth's capabilities without revealing their full hand. Your species has accomplished in months what the Council has prevented us from developing for generations, Drac told William during a secure meeting. Talia's crystalline form glimmered with excitement. The Council maintains power by keeping technology stagnant. Their entire authority structure is built on the lie that their way is the only way. We need to be careful, William cautioned. The Council has controlled the galaxy for millennia. They won't surrender that control easily. The coalition had grown to include representatives from 12 species, all sharing the common experience of Council suppression. Each brought unique insights and abilities to the Alliance. On the 97th day of the human delegation's stay on Nexus, Captain Wright sent the coded message they had been waiting for: Defiance ready. The plan they had developed was risky. While the Council believed humanity was dutifully following their restricted development path, Daniel would lead a mission to gather direct intelligence on Council military capabilities and hidden technology reserves. We'll be completely off their tracking systems, Daniel assured Lisa during the final briefing. They won't know we've left the solar system. The Defiance slipped away from Earth under cover of a routine solar observatory mission. Once beyond lunar orbit, Olivia's propulsion system activated, and the ship simply vanished from conventional detection. William received confirmation of the successful launch through their secure quantum link. Looking out at the magnificent view of space from his quarters on Nexus, he allowed himself a small smile. The revolution begins, he whispered to himself. In the darkness between the stars, the Defiance accelerated silently toward destinations the Council had forbidden humans to visit, carrying with it the potential to upend the entire galactic order. The emergency alarms on Nexus blared without warning. Council security forces moved with uncharacteristic urgency through the corridors. William Carter observed the commotion from a quiet corner, maintaining a carefully neutral expression despite his racing heart. Ambassador Carter, a stern voice called. Sub-Councilor Mreath approached, flanked by guards. Your presence is required immediately in the High Chamber. William nodded calmly. Of course. The Council chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species. At the center, High Councilor Zixvar's multiple eyes fixed on William as he entered. Humanity has violated the terms of assessment, Zixvar announced, voice echoing through the chamber. Our monitoring stations have detected unauthorized technological development on your world. On the main display appeared images of Lisa's laboratory, somehow captured despite their security measures. These violations are severe, continued Zixbar. As punishment, Earth will be isolated. No contact with other species. No space travel beyond your solar system. For 500 cycles. William stepped forward. With respect, High Counselor, I request evidence of these alleged violations. Your impudence, began another counselor, but was interrupted by the chamber doors sliding open. Captain Daniel Wright walked in, wearing a standard Earth uniform with no special insignia. Behind him followed 4 crew members from the Defiance. Gasps and murmurs spread through the chamber. William concealed his surprise. This was not part of the plan. Who authorized this human's entry? Demanded Zixbar. Daniel smiled slightly. No one. We arrived on our own. Impossible. No ship could approach Nexus without detection. And yet here we stand, Daniel replied. Our vessel, Defiance, is currently holding position just outside this station. Your sensors cannot detect it because you don't know what to look for. William took his cue. High Counselor, humanity has not violated your restrictions. We simply explored paths you never thought to forbid. The chamber erupted in chaos as Council security moved toward Daniel's team. I wouldn't, Daniel warned. Our ship is currently the only thing preventing key information from being transmitted to every species in the galaxy. Zixvar signaled the guards to stop. Explain. Lisa Martinez's voice came through suddenly on the chamber's communication system. Greetings from Earth, Council members. I've temporarily borrowed your network. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing Lisa in her laboratory. Council restrictions forced us to think differently, she explained. Your understanding of dimensional physics is outdated. Let me demonstrate. The hologram expanded to show technical schematics of technologies the Council had long declared impossible. Human arrogance, huffed a counselor. These are theoretical at best. Actually, Daniel countered, we used these theoretical systems to reach Nexus undetected. But that's not the most interesting part. William stepped forward. While exploring these technologies, we discovered something concerning. Evidence that the Council has been deliberately suppressing technological advancement across the galaxy. The chamber grew still as William gestured to Daniel, who activated a data transmission. Records appeared showing centuries of Council interventions against species who developed beyond approved limitations. You've maintained power by keeping everyone else behind, William said quietly. That ends today. Screens around the chamber suddenly activated, showing feeds from across Nexus. The marginalized species William had been working with were staging simultaneous demonstrations. 17 species have already joined our cooperative, William announced. We're not asking permission anymore. Zixvar rose to full height. This is rebellion. The consequences will be significant, William agreed. For the Council, your authority was built on technological superiority you no longer possess. From across the chamber, representatives from other species began standing in support. The Council has served its purpose, called out Drac from the gallery. But the galaxy has outgrown your limitations. As the chamber descended into heated debate, William exchanged a subtle nod with Daniel. Phase 1 was complete. The Council's worst nightmare had been realized. Not just humanity's defiance, but a fundamental challenge to the very system they had maintained for thousands of years. The revolution was no longer coming. It had arrived. Nathan Rivera had always been drawn to the past. As Earth's leading archaeologist specializing in ancient languages, he had been a natural choice for the second human delegation to Nexus. While diplomats handled the political fallout from Daniel Wright's dramatic entrance, Nathan quietly explored the station's vast archives, with permission that had been reluctantly granted. The Council maintained historical records dating back thousands of years, but few ever bothered to study them. The past was considered settled and irrelevant in galactic politics. This oversight proved to be the Council's critical mistake. I found something, Nathan whispered into his secure communicator. Emma Nelson, a quantum physicist working with Lisa Martinez, was his only contact during these research sessions. What is it? Emma's voice came through the nearly undetectable earpiece. Access logs show these records haven't been viewed in over 300 years, Nathan explained, his fingers moving across the ancient interface. They document the Council's formation. The official history isn't accurate. Nathan had discovered something extraordinary. The Galactic Council hadn't been formed as a cooperative alliance as they claimed. It had been created specifically to prevent technological advancement beyond a certain threshold. The founding species were afraid, Nathan explained later during a secure meeting with William Carter and the coalition leaders. A civilization called the Predecessors had achieved technology so advanced it nearly collapsed reality in this sector of the galaxy. The archives contained fragmented records of this ancient species, whose experiments with dimensional physics had caused catastrophic damage. The founding council species had survived the aftermath, and determined such power should never again be wielded by any civilization. They created the council to enforce technological limitations, Nathan continued, but they went beyond reasonable caution. They'd been systematically suppressing advancement for millennia. Emma leaned forward, her eyes intense. That explains the arbitrary restrictions on quantum research. They're not just maintaining their power. They're terrified of what might happen if any species reaches the predecessor's level. The most disturbing discovery came when Nathan found evidence of entire civilizations that had been erased from history after developing technologies the Council deemed dangerous. They weren't just isolated, Nathan said quietly. They were eliminated. Completely. We need to broadcast this information, William decided. The entire galaxy deserves to know the truth. Using the quantum communication network Earth had secretly established, the team prepared to share their findings with every species they could reach. They knew this would escalate the conflict with the Council, but the truth could no longer remain hidden. Emma worked with Nathan to compile the most compelling evidence. The Council isn't just holding us back, she said. They've been lying about fundamental physics. Some of the technologies they've banned aren't dangerous at all. They just challenge Council authority. The most significant revelation came from comparing the fragmented predecessor records with Emma's own research. The predecessors weren't destroyed by their technology, she explained. The evidence suggests they evolved beyond physical existence. They didn't collapse reality. They transcended it. As they prepared the broadcast, Council security forces began moving against human facilities on Nexus. They had detected unusual activity in the archives and suspected something was happening. We don't have much time, William warned. Nathan looked up from the ancient records. They're afraid of us, William. Not just humans, but any species that questions their narrative. Fear has driven their actions for thousands of years. Fear is a powerful control mechanism, Emma added, but it can be overcome with truth. When the broadcast finally went live, it reached billions of beings across thousands of worlds simultaneously. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Protests erupted on Council worlds. Ships from isolated species began moving without authorization. The carefully maintained order began crumbling. What happens now? Nathan asked, watching the chaos unfold on monitoring screens. William's expression was both determined and concerned. Now we find out if the galaxy is ready for freedom, and if we're ready to handle what comes next. The Council's response was swift and predictable. They declared all Earth vessels outlaws, cut off official communication with humanity, and ordered their military forces to isolate the human solar system. What they didn't anticipate was how quickly other species would rally to Earth's cause. Rebecca Powell stood before a three-dimensional star map, displaying the positions of all known vessels in the sector. As Earth's top military strategist, she had been preparing for this moment since the first contact with the Council. They're positioning battle cruisers here, and here. She pointed to key transit routes. Standard containment protocol. But they've overlooked something important. Us, said a rumbling voice. Korvac, military commander of the Votheri forces, towered over the other representatives, gathered in the secure facility beneath Geneva. Representatives from 17 species, formed what they now called the Galactic Cooperative. Precisely, Rebecca nodded. The Council never expected multiple species to coordinate defense systems. Their tactics are designed to isolate and overwhelm individual worlds. In the weeks following the revelations about the Council's true history, the political landscape of the galaxy had transformed. Species that had been kept separate for generations were now in direct communication. Earth had become the unlikely hub of this new alliance, their quantum communication network expanding daily. Their ships will be within striking distance of Earth in 14 days, Rebecca continued. But we don't need to defeat their entire fleet. We just need to hold them off long enough for diplomatic efforts to succeed. Samuel Green, who had taken over as Earth's chief diplomat after William Carter remained on Nexus, addressed the gathering. The Council is fracturing from within. Progressive members are questioning millennia of policy. We have allies even among the founding species. Can we trust them? Asked Talia of the Lumari, her crystalline form reflecting light across the room. Trust is earned, Samuel replied, but self-interest is reliable. Many Council worlds depend on trade that's now disrupted. Their economies are suffering while ours grow stronger through cooperation. The cooperative strategy was multi-pronged. While Rebecca coordinated defensive preparations, Samuel led diplomatic outreach to neutral species and even sympathetic Council members. Meanwhile, Lisa Martinez and her counterparts from other species worked to develop technologies that combined the unique strengths of each civilization. On Nexus, William Carter had taken an even more dangerous role. He remained on the station with a small team, operating covertly after the Council had officially expelled all human representatives. His network of allies throughout the station provided invaluable intelligence on Council decisions. The High Council is no longer unified, William reported during a secure transmission. 3 of the 9 founding species are now openly questioning the leadership of HFY. They're calling for negotiations with the cooperative. Samuel received this information during a meeting with representatives from 5 previously neutral species. This is our opportunity, he told them. The galaxy is realizing that cooperation advances everyone faster than competition. The Council's model is obsolete. The turning point came when one of the eldest Council members, the archivist Zinfar, publicly defected to the cooperative's cause. As keeper of the Council's most ancient records, his testimony carried immense weight. For 10,000 cycles, I preserved history without questioning it, the ancient being addressed a gathering of representatives. I was complicit in the suppression of truth and progress. This cannot continue. His defection triggered a cascade effect. More Council species began withdrawing support from military action against Earth and the cooperative. Ships that had been advancing toward the human solar system halted or changed course. Rebecca watched the tactical display with cautious optimism. They're pulling back. Not all of them, Samuel noted. Several battlecruisers continued their approach, commanded by HFY loyalists. Then we'll face them, Rebecca said firmly. But not alone. The defensive fleet that assembled to protect Earth represented something unprecedented in galactic history. Ships from 12 different species flying in formation, coordinating through human quantum communication systems, each contributing unique technologies and tactics to form something greater than any could achieve alone. As the Council fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system, the defenders moved into position. The final confrontation was about to begin, but the outcome was already evident. The galaxy had changed irreversibly. The age of isolation was over. The battle for Earth lasted just 6 hours, not because the Council forces were weak, but because they were fighting a war they no longer understood. When HFY's loyalist fleet launched their first assault, they expected to face primitive human defenses backed by a handful of rebellious species. Instead, they encountered something unprecedented. A defensive system built from the combined technologies of 17 different civilizations. They're targeting our command ships, Rebecca Powell observed from the strategic center beneath Geneva. Standard Council tactics. They don't realize our fleet has no central command. The cooperative defense was distributed across hundreds of vessels, each capable of independent action, while remaining connected through quantum links that the Council couldn't detect or disrupt. Lisa Martinez monitored the battle alongside Rebecca. Their weapons are based on technology that hasn't evolved in 3,000 years, she noted. They never needed to innovate because no one could challenge them. When the Council's main battlecruiser fired its planet-killer weapon, a beam designed to shatter Earth's tectonic stability, it met the combined shield technology developed by human, Lumari, and Votheri engineers. The energy dissipated harmlessly into subspace. Impossible, Zixvar was reported to have said when informed of the failure. The counterattack was precise and measured. Rather than destroying Council vessels, cooperative ships disabled their propulsion and communication systems. Within hours, the invasion force was adrift, unable to fight or retreat. "We don't want annihilation," Samuel Green transmitted to the stranded Council commanders. "We want conversation." The victory at Earth was mirrored across the galaxy. On Nexus, Council loyalists found themselves outnumbered as member species declared support for the new cooperative. William Carter emerged from hiding to address the full assembly of representatives. The Council was founded on fear, he told the gathered delegates. Fear of power, fear of progress, fear of the unknown. The cooperative is founded on something else, the belief that together we can advance safely. That wisdom comes not from isolation, but from sharing. 3 days after the battle, Zixvar was removed from power by vote of the remaining Council. 1 week later, representatives from 93 species gathered on Nexus to draft a new galactic constitution. The document they created established the Galactic Cooperative Assembly, with 3 core principles: shared technological advancement, protection of individual species autonomy, and commitment to exploration. Each species brings unique perspectives, William explained during the signing ceremony. Humans aren't inherently smarter than the Council species. We simply ask different questions because of our different history. Imagine what we can achieve if we all share our unique approaches. William was elected the first chairperson of the Assembly, though he insisted the position rotate annually among member species. The transition wasn't without challenges. Centuries of Council rule had left deep imprints on galactic culture. Some species feared change. Others wanted revenge against their former oppressors. Diplomatic crises erupted regularly in the first year. But the benefits quickly became apparent. With restrictions lifted on collaborative research, technological advancement accelerated at unprecedented rates. Medical breakthroughs extended lifespans across dozens of worlds. Energy production systems eliminated resource scarcity for billions. 5 years after the formation of the cooperative, a joint expedition of humans, Lumari, and former Council scientists made the most significant discovery yet, evidence that the predecessors had not vanished, but had evolved into a non-physical state of existence that intersected with normal spacetime in specific, detectable ways. "They're still here," Emma Nelson explained to the Assembly after returning from the expedition, "just beyond our perception, and I believe they're aware of us." The revelation sparked a new era of exploration, not just of physical space, but of the nature of reality itself. On the 10th anniversary of First Contact, Frank Turner and Grace Lawson, now both in their 70s, attended a celebration at the cooperative headquarters on Nexus. Looking out at the diverse gathering of species, Frank smiled. "We thought we were alone in the universe," he said quietly. "Then we thought we were at the bottom of a hierarchy. Turns out, we were just early participants in a conversation that's been going on for millions of years." Grace nodded, watching representatives from 200 species mingling freely. And the conversation is just beginning. Above them, through the vast, transparent dome of the Assembly Hall, new stars were visible, distant galaxies previously unreachable, now within reach of cooperative ships. The boundaries that had once seemed fixed had given way to limitless possibility. The Council's nightmare had become the galaxy's dream.